So we're going to have a few extra minutes. I think it's useful. Trying to get breathing into 20 minutes is a hard ask. And oftentimes when I think about breathing, and maybe when you think about the breath, what's your perception of it? It's a tool that's very unique to human beings. And I was lucky enough to come across it about 25 years ago. I always had cold hands and feet. I had very, very poor sleep. I was always typically mouth breathing as a kid because of a stuffy nose, and as a teenager I was waking up tired. But mouth breathing, of course, is having huge negative impact on the physiology of the human body. And yet nobody seems to ask the question. I'm sure many of you, when you visit your medical doctors, does the question ever come into being whether you're breathing through your nose or mouth? It seems so obvious. And breathing itself is so obvious. But yet, because it's so obvious and so simple, we have overlooked it. It's only in the last 4 years that attention has started to come on breathing. Now, what I would like to do is I really want to show connection and kind of bring it back to basics in terms of the application of breathing to influence the two most vital organs, which are the brain and the heart. So the heart, of course, the function is to pump blood throughout the body, but of course the heart isn't just pumping blood, but the heart needs its own blood supply. Can you influence blood supply to the heart? But conversely, how about if you're breathing incorrectly, which is relatively common? 75% of the anxiety population breathe dysfunctionally, 75%. 30 to 60% of the asthma population, and about 10% of the general population. And it's not just about breathing using the diaphragm. A lot of the attention is focused just in one dimension of breathing. But can we influence this organ, the heart? Can we improve blood flow? Can we improve oxygen delivery? What happens if you do intense physical exercise for long periods of time? Could that have a negative impact on the heart? Could you help to mitigate that by breathing a little bit different during physical exercise? It's never just about the air that's coming into your nose or mouth that's the key. We always should be thinking about downstream. Can you influence alveolar ventilation? So can you influence the air that gets down to the small air sacs in the lungs? Can you influence gas exchange, oxygen transfer from the lungs into the blood? But more importantly, can you influence oxygen delivery to the tissues and organs, including the heart and brain? The brain itself consumes about 20% of our oxygen. It's 2% of our body weight. 15 to 20% of cardiac output goes to the brain. So the brain, for its weight, consumes 10 times more oxygen than any other organ in the human body. 10 times more. But many of us can be depriving the brain of a little blood flow, and we don't even know it. And that in turn can impact our memory, our concentration, our energy levels, anxiety, PTSD, depression. Because when we reduce blood flow to the brain gets excited. We have 80 billion brain cells. Each brain cell is communicating with 15,000 other brain cells. The brain needs fuel. How do you fuel the brain? Do you fuel the brain by taking the full deep breaths that's normally espoused? Do you fuel the brain by taking big slow breaths? You can have slow breathing, but it doesn't mean that you're going to increase blood flow and oxygen delivery to the brain. You can breathe slow. You can slow down your breath to 6 breaths per minute, but still overbreathe. It's never just about the respiratory rate. It's also about the volume of air that you breathe during that breath, because ultimately we have to be thinking about what is the volume of air that you are breathing right now? Every minute, every hour, every day. And we can adjust that. So, for example, if you were to look down at your breathing and just check in with yourself, how fast are you breathing? How hard are you breathing? Do you ever feel that you're not getting enough air? If you do physical exercise, do you get overly breathless during physical exercise? Do you find that you're waking up during the middle of the night and your breathing is that bit faster and harder? We can change that. Not necessarily by slowing breathing, but by improving CO2 tolerance. Because the driver to breathe isn't oxygen. We have so much oxygen in the human body. It's only when oxygen drops by about 50% that oxygen drives breathing. The primary driver to breathe is the gas carbon dioxide. So we produce carbon dioxide internally. We're not inhaling it from the atmosphere. We produce it internally. It's part of our metabolism. And the carbon dioxide goes from the tissues into the blood, and that blood is coming back to the heart and back to the lungs, and we breathe out 15% CO2. We only breathe out 15% of the carbon dioxide. We actually hold on to 85%. So the idea that oxygen is good and carbon dioxide is bad is not correct. The idea when you do your yoga practice and you hear your instructor saying, get in as much oxygen, life-giving fuel as possible, get rid of the toxic carbon dioxide, don't listen to your yoga instructor. It's not based on physiology. So, if you improve your CO2 tolerance, your breathing is lighter, your breathing is slower. You do physical exercise with less ventilation, and you can train your body to do that. So why does it matter? Light breathing is what I'm going to emphasize here on. Now, breathing itself is very simple. You know, you talk about the breath in, the breath out, that's it, okay? What do you do with that counts? If you breathe faster, what is it? It's going to be a stressor. If you breathe faster and harder, what does that do? It's a stressor. If you breathe slower and lighter, what does that do? It typically dampens the stress response and increases relaxation. But it can also expose you to a slight sensation of air hunger. It's sometimes good to put yourself into an uncomfortable situation, and I will be putting you into a little bit of an uncomfortable situation, a controlled dose of air hunger, and for you to surrender to that, because that will train the brain also not to react to discomfort. Over-breathing gets a lot of attention. Hyperventilation exercises get a lot of attention. They have their purpose, but what about doing the opposite? What about reducing your breathing volume, increasing your blood circulation, bringing warmth into your hands, bringing saliva into your mouth, activating the rest and digest response, and training your everyday breathing patterns? In terms of blood flow to the brain, it's pretty quick. 60 seconds, you can increase blood flow to the brain. By how much? Between 6 and 9%. And if you check the physiology of it there, just put in carbon dioxide vasodilator. Carbon dioxide, vasodilator, brain. You'll pull up a series of different articles and papers. This is just normal physiology. You don't inhale carbon dioxide. You're not bringing it from the outside in. We're producing it anyway. Why not just breathe in a way that we actually hold on to it, and not to breathe in a way that we're getting rid of too much of it? Because if we do, you may notice that you have cold hands, you have cold feet, you have brain fog, you have reduced memory, you're more likely to be in a panic. It's never just a stressful situation that puts into a panic. We have to think about how is our underlying breathing pattern. And the individuals that we work with across all spheres, top-class, world-class musicians, athletes, police organizations, military, special operations, because ultimately the ideal is it's your everyday breathing. If you're going into a situation, you need to be able to have focus on that. You need to be able to concentrate. You need to be able to hold your attention. You need to be able to be resilient and not going into a difficult situation and going into a fight or flight response with hyperventilation, because if you hyperventilate going into a difficult situation, your brain interprets that the body is under threat. Your brain, when it interprets that the body is under threat, all the brain wants to do is get you out of the situation. Can you think straight when you're getting into a stressful situation? So when you have a challenging situation, how does your breathing react? Does your breathing get faster or slower? Faster? When you get into a stressful situation, do you breathe more air or do you breathe less air? You could have irregular breathing. You can breathe harder, but you can also stop breathing. Stopping breathing is a very normal evolutionary trait. You know, you can think of it 30, 40,000 years ago if there was a predator. We wanted to hide from predators, so it was a very natural thing to actually stop breathing. We stop breathing to evade detection. So stopping of the breath, of course, happens when you're on your emails. So that would be irregular breathing patterns. And also, of course, when we get into a difficult situation, we're breathing upper chest. So not only is it tipping us into a fight or flight response, but it's also reducing blood flow to the brain. So the next time that you do get into a difficult situation, do your best to bring your attention onto your breathing, regardless of the situation that you're going into, and tell your brain that you're safe. And there may be times that life does throw you a curveball, and sometimes life does that. And your head feels heavy. And then you're realizing, yes, my head is so heavy. And my emotions are fueling my thinking, and my thinking is fueling my emotions. But also, what else is stepping in? Your breathing. Because your breathing is going to react the same to an imagined event or a real event. It's not going to differentiate. So if you're overthinking about something, your breathing reacts with faster and harder breathing. Now what are you doing? You're telling the brain that you're not safe. Your brain is here to protect you, puts you into that fight or flight response, wants you to get out of the situation. So, how do we help to reduce blood flow to the brain? I'm going to start off with a very simple breathing technique. We have some extra time, which is great. So for Samantha, if you can give me the extra time that we have at the end at some point, just keep an eye on it. So what I would like you to do is, this is a very good exercise, and it might seem a little bit boring, but that's the simplicity of it. So what I would like you to do is take a normal breath in through your nose and out through your nose, and pinch your nose and hold your nose and hold your breath for 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let go, but breathe in through your nose and breathe normally for about 10, 15 seconds. Whenever you do a short breath hold at the end of an exhalation, you stimulate the vagus nerve and you induce relaxation. Breathing exercises are more challenging for the person who needs it the most. And mindfulness doesn't work for the person who needs it the most. We have to be realistic. When the mind is all over the place, the last thing you want to do is pay attention to anything. But how can you tell your brain that you're safe? Increase blood flow to it, but also stimulate the vagus nerve, dampen the stress response. This young girl here, there's a young girl in the audience, she has her mouth open since she's come in. I'm not going to, but she's done a breath hold, and now there's some mucus coming up from her lungs. Because when you hold your breath, your bronchioles have to open up. And I will show you a technique to open up your nose. See, this is where breathing goes beyond breathing. Your blood circulation you can influence, your oxygen delivery you can influence, your airways you can influence, your autonomic nervous system you can influence, your sleep you can influence. I've written 11 books on the subject. Some of the books have 100,000 words and more. That's just about the breath. So let's go again. Take a normal breath in through your nose and out through your nose, and pinch your nose and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let go, breathe in through your nose and breathe normal for 10 to 15 seconds. And we should not hear you breathe. Why do we hear you breathe? What happens when we hear you breathing? You could be getting rid of too much carbon dioxide, and the loss of carbon dioxide could be reducing blood flow to the brain. When you're doing your yoga, do it with nose and silent and slow breathing. Don't listen to the yoga instructor. For 5,000 years, breathing in yoga was about conservation of the breath and breathing less air. It was only in 1880, there was a hygiene movement in Europe. People were dying with tuberculosis. And an idea took hold that if you took these full, deep breaths, you helped to prevent germs from spreading throughout the body. Nonsense. And that information traveled to the east. And then yoga breathing changed. So the original yogi masters knew about conservation of the breath. They knew about the subtlety of breathing. And many of them, to help achieve enlightenment, they would block one nostril for long, long periods of time. That's not forcing you to breathe more air. It's forcing you to breathe less air. Yogi masters could hold their breath easily for 180 seconds. If you can hold your breath easily for 180 seconds, you have got CO2 tolerance. You can tolerate a high buildup of carbon dioxide. Do you understand where I'm going? So information has crept into the breathing world, but that information isn't necessarily correct. And then you might be saying, well, why am I saying something that somebody else is saying the opposite? All I will say to you is this: practice it. This is so subtle, it's so simple, and yet your body will tell you straight away. Can we go again? Take a normal breath in and out, pinch your nose and hold your breath for 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let go, breathe in through your nose and breathe normal for about 10 to 15 seconds, and try not to hear yourself breathing. If you're running out of air from holding your breath for 5 seconds, it does imply that your breathing has got a lot of room for improvement, but that is good news for you, because now you identify that something has been holding you back. And if you're working with your clients, and your clients are coming in and they are breathing faster and harder, and even if you're trying to encourage that individual to lose weight, how can you encourage that person to recover if they're in a constant increased sympathetic drive? And life does throw us into that increased sympathetic drive. Where is there room for healing and recovery if we're in a constant stress response? And what's one direct way of helping to tell the brain and body that we are safe, dampening the stress response and increasing the relaxation response? Your breath is direct. You have it with you all the time. It's free. And once you know the tools, you can use them for the rest of your life. And again, normal breath in through your nose and out through your nose, and pinch your nose and hold your nose and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let go. Okay. Now I'm going to push it a little bit more. So I'm going to go into a slight stress response. It is increasing CO2, but this way, if I can put you into a slight stress response, I can help open up your nose. If you have a stuffy nose, you don't just have a stuffy nose. If you have a stuffy nose, you're also more likely to be tired. If you have a stuffy nose, you're also likely to have cognitive dysfunction. People with a stuffy nose, yes, they do mouth breathe, and they will mouth breathe during sleep. They have 2 times to 3 times the risk of sleep disorders. And if we think of us as human beings, the ability to be able to concentrate, the ability to be able to make decisions, to reason, to analyze, that's the most important trait you could argue of the human being. But yet, if we're going around with our mouth open, or if we have a stuffy nose, or if we have our mouth open during sleep, that's going to affect our concentration. So let's show you how to decongest the nose. By the way, if you have panic disorder, you have to go easy. If you're pregnant, congratulations, but please don't practice this next exercise. If you have any heart issues or any serious medical conditions, you have to go very, very easy, yeah? So if you have any issues, only hold your breath for 5 seconds. The rest of you, I'm going to have you hold your breath for about 15, 20 seconds. It's not that long. You'll be well able to do it. But I want to check, can we help open up your nose? And also, if you're a bit older, don't overdo it, yeah? Take a normal breath in through your nose and out through your nose, and pinch your nose and hold your nose. Now gently nod your head up and down, holding your breath. And relax into the breath hold as you do it. And keep going. And nod your head up and down and hold your breath for about 15 to 20 head nods. Now, if you find that the air hunger is a bit too much for you, let go when it's getting a bit too much for you. And then to let go, but to breathe in through your nose. So whenever you're ready, then let go, but breathe in through your nose. So we'll do this 3 or 4 times. This got me into breathing. I'm not a left of field individual at all. You know, I'm not into the whole woo-woo and the language that's around breathing and all the nonsense that you hear about it, honestly. Because all it's doing is putting mainstream people off. This is so for everybody. You know, everybody should have an ability to self-regulate, to improve their sleep, to get out of their heads, to improve blood flow, to improve oxygen delivery. You don't need all the paraphernalia. You don't need to be dressed a certain way. You don't need to be talking a certain way. Because if that's the case, it's not going to get to where it needed most. And again, take a normal breath in through your nose and out through your nose, and pinch your nose and hold your nose, and gently nod your head up and down. Push it a little bit. But kind of listen to your body and keep holding your breath, because what you want to do is you're holding your breath to the point that you feel a moderate to strong air hunger. Keep going, keep pushing, keep going, keep pushing, keep going without overdoing it. If it gets a bit too much for you, let go sooner and breathe in through your nose. In other words, listen to your body. There's a point to push it, but also with stress or exercise, and we're kind of keeping it easy enough. But long breath holds is a stressor because it puts you into air hunger. Air hunger is a primal fear. So we as human beings, we have 3 fears: lack of food, lack of water, and lack of air. You could argue that lack of air is the strongest primal fear. And how you cope with air hunger during rest is a lot stronger than during physical exercise. But it can be useful putting yourself into a controlled dose of air hunger. Air hunger is just because there's a buildup of carbon dioxide. Now you'll be increasing blood flow to your brain. It's not oxygen. So when you were holding your breath there, your oxygen levels will hardly drop, maybe 1%. And partly they will drop because as carbon dioxide increases, blood pH will drop slightly, and hemoglobin, which is the main carrier of oxygen in the blood, will release oxygen more readily. That was discovered back in 1904. It's called the Bohr effect. In other words, it's not about the oxygen that comes in here. You have to be thinking downstream. Alveolar ventilation, oxygen transfer from the lungs into the blood, and oxygen transfer from the blood to the tissues and organs. And that's where we need to be thinking about. But that's where carbon dioxide comes in. And again, take a normal breath in through your nose and out through your nose, and pinch your nose and hold your nose. We shouldn't hear your breathing, and you're gently nodding your head up and down. And if you're bringing up mucus, it is brilliant because now your airways are opening. That's what you want. So keep holding your breath. So if somebody has asthma, I would expect you to have 50% less asthma symptoms in 2 weeks. I just don't talk about breathing. I spent 20 years working with clients with breathing problems, with anxiety, with panic disorder, with asthma, with sleep, one-to-one, small groups, and you learn a lot from experience. And I will genuinely say, if you have breathing issues such as asthma, put the Buteyko method, put Oxygen Advantage into practice. If you have sleep problems, put it into practice. Don't wake up with a dry mouth in the morning. If you have anxiety and panic disorder or depression, think about your brain and how to improve blood flow and oxygenation. And it's not about taking the full deep breaths. How does your brain feel when you take full deep breaths? You feel lightheaded. You feel dizzy. Is that a sign of increased blood flow or the opposite? And again, take a normal breath in through your nose and out through your nose, and pinch your nose and hold your nose and gently nod your head up and down, holding your breath. And just relax into the body. Keep going. Listen to your body. Don't overdo it. You should be able to recover within a couple of breaths at the end. Keep holding your breath. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And then let go and breathe in through your nose. Can I just see a show of hands? Is there anybody noticing that their nose is opening up a little bit, that you're feeling it easier to breathe? Can I just see the show of hands? You see around the room, yeah? No tools. Nothing, no cost. The one thing about the human nose is that the more you use it, the better it works. And irrespective of the person, the vast majority of people, including children, okay, with adenoids it can be a little bit different, we can switch to nasal breathing. Getting blood flow to the brain is actually quite quick. Within 1 minute, you can increase blood flow to your brain. And that's what I'm going to do now. And I am going to run over on time because of the little disruption, which is okay. So I might as well take it to my advantage. And yours, of course, as well. I can give you something you can take home. You can practice this. You have it, yeah? Put one hand on your chest and one hand just above your navel. If you're not comfortable with doing that, you could just have your hands on your lap. Young girl in the audience, try and keep your lips together. Breathe in and out through your nose. Your mouth is not for breathing. Bring your attention out of your mind and onto your breath. Feel the airflow as it comes in and out of the body. You might even feel the air at the back of the throat. You might notice your chest rising and falling. You might notice the movement of the tummy. 4 places at which you can feel airflow coming into the body. Now what I would like you to do is gently softening and slowing down the speed of your breathing. Bear in mind that I need you to breathe a little bit less air. I would like you to really soften and slow down the speed of the air coming into your nose, and then at the top of the breath bring a total feeling of relaxation to the body and allow a relaxed and a slow and a gentle breath out. The whole objective here is gently soften and slow down your breathing to the point that you feel that you're not getting enough air. I need you to feel that you would like to take in a deeper breath. That's only telling you that carbon dioxide has increased in your lungs and blood. And that's what we want. Because that sensation of air hunger, you now know that you have improved blood flow to the brain, likely between 6 and 9%. And it will also activate the relaxation response and also the controlled dose of air hunger, you surrender to it. So there's a slight psychological stress, but there's a physiological relaxation. But continue with it. Don't give up yet, yeah? Take a soft, gentle breath in through your nose and a really relaxed and a slow and a gentle breath out. I would like you to soften and slow down your breathing to the point that you feel that you're not getting enough air. How to breathe to improve your blood circulation. How to breathe to increase oxygen delivery. How to breathe to improve your CO2 tolerance. So you're gently softening and slowing down the speed of your breathing to the point that you feel that you would like to take in more air. Now, if it gets a bit stressful for you, just take a rest and then come back to it. So listen to your body. It's a bit uncomfortable, yeah? But it's no more uncomfortable than what you would experience if you went for a fast walk or a light jog with your mouth closed. So continue gently softening and slowing down your breathing to the point of that air hunger. And relax into it. And pay attention to the saliva in the mouth. Pay attention to whether you're getting sleepy. Pay attention to the temperature of your hands. Can you influence your blood circulation in 1 to 2 minutes? If you can improve blood circulation to your hands, not just because your hands are beside your body, but internally, you're also going to increase blood flow to your brain. This is just normal physiology, normal science. Continue doing it for about a minute more. taking a really soft and slow, gentle breath in through your nose, and a relaxed and a slow and a gentle breath out. And soften and slow down your breathing to the point that you feel that you would like to take in a deeper breath. And what else are you doing when you do this exercise? You're telling your brain that you are safe. You're helping to strengthen the baroreflex, to stimulate the vagus nerve, to bring balance to the autonomic nervous system. It's very, very important. Softening the breath, slowing down the breath, relaxing the breath, and ultimately building up your CO2 tolerance. Take a rest. Can I just ask if any of you notice any change in the saliva in the mouth, by the way? So you can see again, if you have increased watery saliva in the mouth, what does that convey? That you've activated the digest response, yeah? Does anybody feel sleepy after doing that exercise? So again, you can see the show of hands. If you feel sleepy, what has it done? It has activated the relaxation response, rest and digest. Like very often in life, we always think about the stressors. What about the recovery? Yes, I can stress you. I can lower your blood oxygen saturation down to 85%, down into the 70s. I can stress you all you want, but maybe that's not what you need. You know, you have to think about both. We use 24, 25 different breathing exercises. That's what you can do with the breath. You can go from here to here. It's a little bit like physical exercise, but the one thing about breathing is bring it into your way of life, because you don't have to set the time aside. Do you do physical exercise? Do you go for a walk with your mouth closed? Do you go for a jog with your mouth closed? Do you do any physical exercise? 96% of people do their physical exercise with their mouth open. 96%. George Dallam is a professor due for retirement from Colorado State University. He's been interested in nasal breathing during physical exercise for 20 years. His most recent paper is looking at the long-term effects of endurance running on the heart. He says endurance athletes have scarring of their heart. Why? Because they are putting in a lot of mileage with their mouth open, which is likely causing hyperventilation, which is reducing blood flow and oxygen delivery to the heart muscle. And during intense exercise, the cardiac output of the heart is 6 times over what it would be during rest. But it only gets up to 5 times enough blood flow to sustain 5 times cardiac output. So in other words, there's a difference between what the heart needs and what the heart gets in terms of blood flow. Don't just think of your heart as this organ which is pumping blood throughout the body. Think about how do you get blood flow to the heart. How do you do that? Think of carbon dioxide. How do you increase carbon dioxide in your lungs and blood? Do your physical exercise with your mouth closed. There is nothing in your mouth that serves any purpose when it comes to breathing. What's in your mouth? Your teeth, your tongue, your gums, your hard palate, your soft palate, the back of the throat, saliva. Do any of those functions, any of those parts of the mouth do serve any function in terms of breathing? And the answer is no. So your mouth, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to realize that your mouth is for eating, for drinking, for speaking, and if you're lucky enough, for kissing. And that's about it. Your nose does everything when it comes to breathing, even during physical exercise. And yes, at the start it's a bit difficult because the air hunger is higher, but the air hunger is higher because of an accumulation of carbon dioxide. But if you keep doing your physical exercise with your mouth closed, you strengthen your diaphragm. You increase your tolerance to carbon dioxide, and then you can do physical exercise with less ventilation. I'm not sure how much time I have. 3 minutes left? No. Okay. I'm going to just give you an overshoot. This is all about the oxygen advantage. 24 different breathing exercises that's accessible, that you bring into your way of life. And all I would say is this: start breathing through your nose. It's a great foundation during physical exercise, during rest, and during sleep. For you, I would suggest that you download our app. It's free. Everything inside it is free. I spent 2 years putting an app together, and it's all free. And the reason being is because bring breathing and to bring a better understanding of breathing out there. If, for example, you work in the healthcare profession or fitness professions, it's very important that you can identify dysfunctional breathing in your client population, because that may be holding your client back. Simple tools, and breathing is simple. And of course, like everything else, you then have it for the rest of your life.